What happens when two beloved television personalities clash, live on air, in a way nobody saw coming? Well, that's exactly what viewers witnessed when Melissa Peterman appeared as a guest on Sherri Shepherd's talk show. And what started as friendly banter quickly spiraled into one of the most uncomfortable moments in daytime television history. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this story has more twists than anyone expected. The tension was building from the moment Melissa walked onto the set. You could feel something was different about the usual warm energy these two comedic powerhouses typically share. Sherri, sitting behind her desk with that signature smile, seemed to be trying extra hard to keep things light. But there was something lurking beneath the surface. Melissa Peterman, everybody, Sherri announced to the studio audience as applause filled the room. Looking absolutely gorgeous as always, and I have to say, that dress is stunning on you. Melissa settled into the guest chair, adjusting her outfit with a somewhat forced smile. Thank you, Sherri. You know, I picked this specifically because I knew we were going to have a real conversation today, not just the usual fluff. The comment caught Sherri off guard, and you could see her eyebrows raise slightly. Oh, okay, well, we always keep it real here. That's what my audience loves about the show. Do we, though? Melissa leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. Because I've been watching, and I've noticed some interesting patterns in how certain topics get handled around here. The studio audience was still clapping, completely unaware of the shift happening right in front of them. Sherri maintained her composure, but her laugh sounded a bit more strained than usual. Well, you know me, I'm always open to feedback. What patterns are you talking about exactly? Melissa paused, looking directly into Sherri's eyes. The way you've been talking about women in comedy lately, specifically, how you've been discussing the opportunities we get versus the opportunities we deserve. Now the audience was starting to sense something was different. The applause died down, and you could hear the subtle shift in the room's energy. Sherri's media training kicked in as she tried to navigate what was clearly becoming a minefield. I think I've always been supportive of women in comedy. I mean, look at my career, look at my platform. I use it to lift other women up all the time. Lift them up or keep them in their place. Melissa's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. Because when you had Sarah on last week, you spent 10 minutes asking her about her personal life and maybe 2 minutes discussing her new special. When male comedians come on, it's all about their craft, their process, their brilliance. Sherri shifted uncomfortably in her seat. The camera operators were getting some incredible shots of the tension building between these two women. I think that's a bit unfair, Melissa. I asked different guests different questions, based on what I think the audience wants to know, what the audience wants to know, or what you think will get better ratings. Melissa's tone was still professional, but she was clearly not backing down, because there's a difference between being entertaining and being exploitative. The word exploitative hung in the air like a bomb that had just been dropped. Sherri's smile was now completely gone, replaced by a look that suggested she was calculating her next move very carefully. I'm sorry, did you just call me exploitative on my own show? I'm calling the pattern exploitative. Whether that makes you exploitative is something you'll have to figure out for yourself. Melissa uncrossed her arms and leaned forward. But since we're keeping it real, as you like to say, let's talk about why you really invited me here today. The audience was dead silent now. Even the crew members who had seen countless interviews over the years were paying attention in a way that suggested this was unlike anything they'd witnessed before. Sherri took a deep breath, clearly trying to regain control of her own show. I invited you here because you're talented, you're funny, and you have a new project to promote. Same reason I invite any guest, really. Because your producer called my agent and specifically mentioned wanting to discuss my comments about daytime television. Hosts who use their platforms to tear down other women while pretending to build them up. Now we were getting to the heart of it. Sherri's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, realization, and then something that looked a lot like anger. I have never torn down another woman on this show, ever. That's not who I am, and it's not what this platform is about. Melissa tilted her head slightly, like she was studying Sherri's response. Then explain your segment about female comedians who complain too much about not getting opportunities, because I'm pretty sure that was specifically about me and about 3 other women who've been vocal about the industry lately. The tension in the studio was now so thick you could cut it with a knife. Camera operators were zooming in on both women's faces, capturing every micro-expression, every moment of this unfolding drama. That segment was about encouraging people to focus on solutions rather than problems, Sherri said, but her voice lacked the conviction it had carried earlier in the interview. By calling us complainers, by suggesting we should be grateful for whatever scraps we get, Melissa's composure was still intact, but there was fire in her eyes now. Because that's not encouragement, Sherri. That's silencing. Sherri's jaw tightened at the word silencing. You could see her media training battling with her genuine emotions, and for a moment, it looked like the training might lose. I have never silenced anyone. If anything, I give women a platform they wouldn't have otherwise. You're sitting in that chair right now because I chose to have you here, and there it is, Melissa said, sitting back with a knowing look. The power play. You chose to have me here, so I should be grateful and keep my mouth shut about anything that might make you uncomfortable. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. You just dressed it up prettier. Melissa's voice remained steady, but her words cut deep. This is the problem with daytime television. Sherri, you all think you're doing us favors by having us on, like we should kiss the ring instead of having actual conversations. The audience was shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Some were looking around at each other, unsure if they should be witnessing this level of conflict. Others were completely glued to the action, unfolding in front of them. Sherri leaned forward, her own composure starting to crack. You know what, Melissa? I've been nothing but supportive of you and your career. When you were going through your divorce, who had you on their show to promote your book? When you needed a platform to talk about your new projects, who gave you that platform? And you think that gives you the right to control the narrative about women in comedy. You think past favors mean I should stay quiet when you're perpetuating harmful stereotypes. Harmful stereotypes. Sherri's voice was rising now, and the carefully maintained talk show host persona was beginning to slip away. I'm a black woman who built her own empire in this industry. Don't talk to me about harmful stereotypes. Melissa paused, recognizing the shift in the conversation. This isn't about your personal struggles, Sherri, and you know it. This is about how you use your platform now that you have it. How I use my platform? I use it to entertain people, to give them a break from their problems, to showcase talent. What exactly is wrong with that? Nothing is wrong with entertainment. Everything is wrong with using entertainment as an excuse to avoid accountability. Melissa's voice was getting stronger, now more confident. When you make jokes about female comedians being too sensitive, when you suggest we should just work harder instead of pointing out systemic problems, you're not just entertaining. You're reinforcing the same barriers that kept you out for years. Sherri stood up abruptly, causing her chair to roll backward. The sudden movement sent a jolt through the studio, and several crew members looked toward the producers off stage. You don't get to come on my show and lecture me about systemic barriers. I broke through those barriers. I earned my place here, and now you're pulling the ladder up behind you. Melissa remained seated, but her posture was alert, ready for whatever came next. You got yours, so everyone else should just figure it out on their own, right? That is not what I'm doing. Sherri was pacing now, moving back and forth behind her desk like a caged animal. I help other women all the time. I mentor, I promote, I support. You help women who don't challenge you. You help women who play by the rules you've accepted. But the moment someone points out that those rules are rigged, you turn on them. The words hit Sherri like a slap. She stopped pacing and stared directly at Melissa, her breathing noticeably heavier. You think you know me. You think you know what I've been through, what I've sacrificed to get here. I know what you're doing right now, Melissa replied calmly. You're making this about your personal journey instead of addressing the actual issue. It's deflection, and it's exactly what I expected. What you expected? Sherri's voice was now loud enough that the audience members in the front row were leaning back slightly. You came here looking for a fight. I came here hoping for honesty. The fight was your choice. Sherri walked around her desk, closing some of the distance between herself and Melissa. The camera operators were working overtime to capture every angle of this confrontation. Honesty. You want honesty. Here's some honesty for you. You're a mid-level comedian who's never had a show of her own, never built an empire, never had to make the tough decisions that come with real power in this industry. And you want to sit in my studio and tell me how to use my platform? The audience gasped audibly. It was the first truly personal attack of the interview, and everyone in the room felt the shift. Melissa's expression changed for the first time, a flash of genuine hurt crossing her face before she regained control. "There it is," Melissa said quietly. "The real Sherri Shepherd. Not the supportive mentor, not the woman who lifts other women up, the one who tears them down the moment they step out of line. I'm not tearing you down. I'm stating facts. You're using your platform to diminish my credibility instead of addressing my arguments, which, by the way, just proved every point I've been making." Melissa stood up now, matching Sherri's energy. "You can't defend your actions, so you attack my career. Your career speaks for itself, and so does yours. The question is, what is it actually saying?" The studio fell into complete silence as both women stared at each other, the weight of that question hanging between them like a challenge that couldn't be ignored. Sherri's face went through a series of emotions: anger, frustration, and something that looked almost like recognition. But instead of answering, she deflected again. "You know what your problem is, Melissa? You think everyone owes you something. You think the industry should hand you opportunities because you exist? No. I think the industry should give women equal opportunities because we're equally talented. But you've convinced yourself that fighting for scraps is the same thing as success." Melissa took a step closer. "And worse, you've convinced yourself that other women wanting more somehow diminishes what you've achieved. Don't psychoanalyze me. Then stop proving my analysis correct." Melissa's voice was sharp now. "All pretense of politeness gone. Every single thing you've said in the last 10 minutes has been about protecting your position instead of lifting up other women. You've attacked my career, questioned my motives, and deflected from every valid point I've made." Sherri moved closer, and now they were standing just a few feet apart, the tension so thick that several audience members were visibly uncomfortable. "Valid points. You came on my show to ambush me. You had an agenda from the moment you walked through that door. My agenda was honesty. Your agenda was damage control." Melissa didn't back down, didn't step away. "The difference is, I'm willing to have this conversation in front of everyone. You're trying to make me the villain for bringing up things that need to be discussed. This isn't a discussion, it's an attack. No, Sherri, this is what accountability looks like. And the fact that you can't tell the difference is exactly the problem." Sherri's composure finally snapped completely. "Get off my show." The words echoed through the studio like a gunshot. The audience gasped. Crew members froze, and for a moment, everyone seemed to be holding their breath. Melissa blinked, clearly surprised by the sudden escalation. "Excuse me? You heard me? Get off my show. This interview is over. Because I called you out. Because I refused to play along with your narrative." Melissa's voice was incredulous. "This is exactly what I'm talking about, Sherri. The moment someone challenges you, you shut them down. This is my show, my studio, my rules. And I don't have to sit here and let you disrespect me on my own platform." "Disrespect?" Melissa laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Asking you to be accountable for your own words is disrespect. Pointing out hypocrisy is disrespect. Or is disrespect only defined as anything that makes Sherri Shepherd uncomfortable?" Sherri pointed toward the exit, her hand shaking slightly with anger. "Leave." Now, the camera operators were getting incredible footage, zooming in on both women's faces, capturing every moment of this unprecedented breakdown of a daytime television interview. Melissa looked around the studio, taking in the shocked faces of the audience, the frozen crew members, and finally back at Sherri. "You know what? You're right. This is your show, your rules, your platform, and this is exactly how you choose to use it." She started walking toward her purse, which was sitting on a side table. "But understand something, Sherri. Everyone in this room, everyone watching at home, they just saw who you really are when someone challenges your narrative. They saw me refusing to be attacked on my own show." Melissa picked up her purse and turned back one final time. "They saw you silence a woman for speaking truth to power. They saw you choose ego over accountability. And they saw you prove every single point I came here to make. Get out? I'm going. But not because you're right. I'm going because staying would mean participating in exactly the kind of toxic dynamic I came here to expose." Melissa started walking toward the stage exit, her heels clicking against the floor in the otherwise silent studio. Sherri followed her movement with her eyes, still pointing toward the exit. "Don't let the door hit you on your way out." Melissa paused at the edge of the stage and turned back one last time. "You know, I actually hoped I was wrong about you." I hoped that somewhere underneath all the corporate polish and media training, there was still the woman who fought her way to the top and wanted to help others do the same. I don't need your hopes. No, you need your audience's respect. And after today, that might be harder to come by. Melissa looked directly into the camera. To everyone watching, remember this moment. Remember what happens when women in power choose to protect the system instead of changing it. She walked off the stage, leaving Sherri standing alone in front of an audience that seemed stunned into silence. The cameras captured Sherri's face as she watched Melissa disappear. A mixture of anger. Sherri turned back to face the audience, trying to regain her composure. Well, folks, that was something else. When we come back after the break, we'll be talking to a chef who's making healthy meals fun for kids. But as she sat back down at her desk, you could see her hands were still shaking slightly. The confident media personality who had started the interview was gone, replaced by someone who looked like they were questioning everything that had just happened. The audience sat in stunned silence as the show cut to commercial, leaving everyone to process what they had just witnessed. It was clear that this wasn't just an interview gone wrong, it was a moment that revealed something much deeper about power, accountability, and what happens when someone refuses to play by the established rules. What did you think of this explosive confrontation? Was Melissa out of line for challenging Sherri so directly? Or was Sherri wrong to kick her off the show? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more stories that reveal what really happens behind the scenes in entertainment